Thank you for having me here today to talk about workplace diversity. It's a topic of both personal and professional passion for me. Many of my examples today will focus on gender because that's where my personal insight is, but also because it's a good indicator of how well we're doing and it's easily measurable. But these techniques and insights are meant to encompass the full range of underrepresented people in our industry. When I was a chemical engineering undergrad in the 90s, I was one of 12 women in my class. That may sound like a lot to some of you who've studied STEM programs. But when I say my class was 150 students, it sounds a little bit different. This set the stage for some lonely experiences, starting with a professor who expressed the viewpoint that the women in class were taking up spaces they didn't deserve, that men needed to provide for their families, and we were taking up that real estate. In the years since, I've often been the only woman in meetings, the only woman on an interview panel, or the only woman on a leadership team. So now I'm using the privilege of my position to influence the workplace so that my daughters and their friends and other represented people have it easier than me. But also at a professional level, I really believe that the rewarding work, the exciting work, the impactful work that we do, the work of innovating, solving problems, managing risk, and building strong teams yields better results when the team doing that work brings a multiple perspectives and experiences to those challenges. So here in Utah, our industry has a unique opportunity to make progress at changing the face of the workforce faster if we're intentional about increasing the diversity of the workforce as we grow. There's so many conversations we can have about this topic, but today I'm going to share 3 things in the recruiting and selection process that I've learned have made a difference in moving the needle. First, unconscious bias. These are the social stereotypes about groups that we have, and these exist below our conscious thought. Everyone holds them. They've come about because of the evolution of our brain. They allow faster processing. But these are often actually in conflict with our conscious beliefs. You can imagine my own surprise when I took an implicit association quiz, only to learn at an unconscious level, I'm more likely to associate leadership with being male than female. So what do we do about this? The first thing is make the unconscious conscious. Understand the phenomenon. Take an implicit association quiz to understand our own biases and examine our own thought processes and challenge them. Second, shift the way we attract and interview. Building a network of diverse candidates has to be intentional. If we rely on passive applications or the same network that we know, we're unlikely to get a diverse pool of candidates to pick from. And it really starts from there. Because if we have a diverse slate of candidates, then we have the opportunity to select from a diverse group of individuals, changing the face of the teams that we're hiring. So we can use tools like LinkedIn, active participation in industry events like this that have very diverse speaker panels and participation to identify a different pool of candidates. Along with that, we need a diverse set of perspectives on the interview panel. It's often the insight of an individual that ultimately can lead to exploration that influences that final selection. So the combination of the two is necessary to start in a better place. So third, and this is probably the one that is maybe the most challenging and is still somewhat difficult for me. It's all about selection. So how many times have we heard people say, I think diversity is important, and if I had two equally qualified candidates, of course, I would select the one that increases the diversity of the team. But how often do you have two equally qualified and talented candidates? You often have one or more candidates that are qualified, and you're prioritizing different things as you make that selection. So, I'll share a story. In my previous role, I had the unique opportunity to be a part of a leadership team that over the course of a year or so was selecting and hiring the entire organization of over 100 people, largely internally. So we knew the talent pool that we were recruiting from, and it was our intent to build a diverse workforce. We used several of the techniques I've already talked about today. In the spirit of continuous improvement, we would evaluate how well these techniques were delivering the outcome we wanted. The results after the second pool of hiring, which happened to be the next level of leadership in the plant, were what led to the insight I'll share. We had that diverse pool of candidates, we had objective criteria, diverse interview panel, and awareness of our bias. And yet, when we looked at the results of that pool of hiring, we were disappointed to realize we had selected a largely male, largely white leadership team. So what happened? We had to really say, with all this good intent and all these techniques, how did we end up in a place that didn't match what we wanted? We had focused on technical qualifications at the expense of a more important question. It's a harder, more uncomfortable question for us to discuss as a team. Among these qualified candidates, who's going to contribute a different viewpoint? Who will increase our innovation? Who will make us uncomfortable by challenging our biases and our group thinking? And who will further the attraction of a diverse workforce? I think we avoid these discussions because it feels like we're making a decision based on inherent characteristics that are unfair. But the reality is, each of our identities as we move through the world, those inherent characteristics, shape our individual experiences, our viewpoints, our career paths, and that ultimately leads to different capabilities, different insights, different ways of thinking through problems. If we're not evaluating the contribution of a candidate to the diversity of a team, we're missing a key predictor of overall impact and contribution to team performance. And ultimately, that's what we're here to deliver. So I'll share one last thought with you that I hope leaves you with a sense of urgency to act. When I was considering new opportunities before I accepted my current role, I would get a lot of recruiter calls. I would listen to the role description, and if it was interesting, the very next thing I would do is go to the company's website and look at the leadership and the board of directors. I have a pretty good insight into what my peer group looks like. A lot of us are still underrepresented, but there's a lot of good talent there that doesn't look exactly the same. If your leadership team and your board of directors doesn't even reflect the talent pool that you're recruiting from, I'm not interested in spending my energy there. I choose to work for a company where my contributions will be valued and my impact will be unrestrained. So in the last few years, more than half of undergraduate degrees, half of medical degrees, and 25% of engineering degrees were awarded to women. Representation matters. Candidates will choose whether to join you, to stay with you, based on the evidence that they see that you're intentional in your inclusion. So in the competition for talent in our industries, how well you're attracting, retaining, and including a diverse population will impact your ability to retain and attract the best talent. Thank you.